You're watching CCN, Clarksville Community Network. Produced by Goodwin Productions. Powered by CDE Lightband.
Hey, welcome to CCN. We got a coach's show for you lined up today. We have West Creek here, Coach Gallowitz. We got Coach Peña at Northwest High School, Coach Hood at Rossview. Stick around. We're going to talk about some off-season workouts, some things that we're doing in our programs here in Clarksville, and also going to talk about the upcoming 2023 season. Stick around. All right, so our topic here, we're going to talk about the new 6A region here in Clarksville. So we've got some new schools that's come in, and it sort of resembles the old days. Back in the old days, we had Dickson County, we had Henry County, and it was mostly of the Clarksville schools. So guys, what do you think? I know we've got Northwest coming in. You know, actually I called Coach. I said, get in, man, get in. You know, Coach is already in, so he's good. But so Coach, what do you think about jumping in with the 6A and having our own schools lined up here at Clarksville?
I think it's very exciting for all of the schools in the area to be able to compete in the same region for a region title this upcoming season. There's so many variables. These kids know each other. They know each other outside of school. We as coaches, we all know each other and talk to each other on many of occasions. So I think the level of competition and the level of excitement around Clarksville, I think is going to build a great environment for all of our schools, no matter who's the home crowd or who's the away crowd. I think it's going to be amazing. I
would agree with that. Coach, what do you think about the travel? And I know that you've been in our 6A for 1 year, maybe two, if I remember right. Yeah. But, you know, we had Gallatin, we've had Hendersonville, Beach. We've got Beach. I mean, we've got some travel going on there. We've got some very good schools in 6A football. So what do you think about the new region?
I think the new region is great. I mean, anytime that you can make, you know, an inner city school kind of come to your house, you can kind of go to them and make it more of a, like that's an opportunity to get into the playoffs. And I think those games mean more. I think the parents know that, the kids know that, everybody in the school knows that, you know, that it kind of allows us to, you know, have more of a meaning when we walk into those games. And then in terms of travel, I mean, it's great. You know, having to go to Northwest and Kenwood and, you know, versus driving to Hendersonville or driving to Beach or driving to, you know, Henry County and schools like that, where now we can get bigger home crowds. I think there's going to be a lot more attendance, especially when you have those inner city schools compared to, you know, when we travel away or, you know, those schools come to us, you don't see maybe the attendance numbers that you would like. Right. So I think it's going to be a huge impact, you know, especially for us.
Yep. Well, I think one thing that the viewers may not know that every school takes those big yellow buses, and sometimes we can't get the yellow buses until 4:30, and you've got to be, you know, in Nashville or Beach or Hendersonville at 6 o'clock to get prepped, you know. So lots of ins and outs about that. So I think for the travel, it's going to be really nice. For the time frame, it's going to be nice. Traveling across town, and sometimes travel on Fridays here can be a problem. So that's going to be cool. I'm really excited about that. But what do you think about some of the upcoming opponents? What's some teams that you haven't faced that maybe you're getting ready to research and look at some teams that you haven't seen in the past?
Well, I think the obvious one for our schedule will be non-conference will be Wilson Central. Right. Who I know you've played on, yeah, and then I think the more intriguing one in our region is Dickson County. They, you know, Coach Tomlinson always going to have a well-coached team and very disciplined team, and I think that's one of the big ones that going into the season. And I know I've scrimmaged you on many of occasions, and playing Rossview is definitely another one that's going to be very exciting. You know, to have you across the sideline and, you know, try to have that chess match with you as well.
Could you give me like maybe if you run a trick play or something, maybe Coach, you can tell me what that's going to be. Can we have a little signal or something? Would you sort of help me out a little bit there?
No.
No doubt on that.
No. But preparation is key because, like we said, we played you in the Jamboree last year, and we know you're gonna run the football effectively, so we definitely have to defend the run.
We're going to try. What do you think about, Coach? Some new teams for you? Did you pick up some new teams in the offseason? I know it's for most people who don't know, every 2 years we realign, so you have to call coaches, get your schedule changed. So people wonder, why are you playing a school like Wilson Central? Why are you playing someone else? Well, it's not that easy. You have to call, get schedules adjusted. Does it fit their schedule? Does it fit your time frame? And those are things that we do as coaches. So who did you lose or pick up, or are you excited about picking up this coming year?
We're excited about we scheduled Green Hill. This is a really well-coached team. I think they have a good group of coaches, and they're always a playoff caliber team. And then also Stewart's Creek and Lebanon. Those are two teams that I think can give us a good experience of what the playoffs are going to look like. And so that kind of preps us for that. And I think the last team that is in our district is Kirkwood, just kind of having the unknown of what they're going to bring to the table. You don't really have, obviously you don't have any film on them, so you don't have an opportunity to kind of pre-scout, see who they got coming back, kind of have an idea of their identity on offense or defense. So I'm excited to kind of see how they fit into the region and what kind of style of play they bring. But Coach Hood, what do you think? Who are you guys excited about? What do you guys?
Ooh, exciting. We're still playing Wilson Central. That's a big rivalry for us for 6 or 7 years since I've been at Rossview. So that's going to be interesting. We also picked up Logan County.
Oh, cool.
Right across the board. I think they're like 10-1, 10-2 last year. Very good football team. Those are sort of the teams we picked up, along with Kirkwood joining in, Dixon County joining in. Now, back in the day, Dixon County, now they were like Henry County. Dixon County was a very traditional, rich football program. So I know Jeff's doing a good job over there trying to get that going again. So I think he's trying to bring that back into our county, make that a rivalry again. Losing Henry County, which has been really, if any coach is going to tell you, they've been dominant in our county for 25 years, 30 years. So I mean, losing them can only benefit us. They've got one school in their county, as opposed to 6 or 7 or 8 that we have here at Clarksville. So those are some teams we're looking at for the upcoming season, and we're excited about our season. .6A football is the Clarksville schools that we've created our own region this year. So, Coach, if you'll tell them, we got single A, you've got 2A, 3A, 4A, 5A, which is, you were in 5A last year, Coach, 5A, Northwest, yes. With, who else was in 5A?
It was Springfield, Portland, Henry County, ourselves, Kenwood, and Northeast.
There were 5A schools. That was us, which was Rossview, West Creek, and who else is in our region? Clarksville,
Beach, Hendersonville, and then Gallatin.
Okay, so tell the viewers there, Coach, what is 6A entitled? What does that mean when you hear 6A?
So just if you're just in layman's terms, it's basically each school is broken down by enrollment. And so then what TSSAA does is they go through and they divide them up by sections. So you're playing common opponents that have common enrollment numbers. That way a small school of 500 kids is never going to play, unless they wanted to, a school of 2,000 kids. And so it levels the playing field, and it allows teams to have the same kind of resources, the same type of competitive edge when they're facing each other inside the region. And so that's kind of the makeup of what the different regions are, and then they do it by basically where everybody's located on a map. So they paired we were able to get Northwest and Kenwood to come up to us, move up from 5A to 6A. That way we could limit travel, we could get more attendance, and we could all play in our own region, which would allow us to essentially put in 4 Clarksville schools, including Dixon. If Dixon was to make it, that would make one of the 4. But that's kind of what what 6A and 5A and 4A mean, is just enrollment numbers and how they've divided it.
And then when you go to the playoffs, so playoffs are the top 4 teams of every region. They cross over and play another region, the top 4. The first team, the second team, they play at home. 3 and 4 travel to play 1 and 2. So 4 is going to play 1 on the road, 3 is going to play 2 on the road, and that's how the playoffs work. So with us being one region this year, like we haven't been in many years, and then having Dixon County join in, it looks like we should have some good schools join the playoffs and try to make a run.
And it would also give us an opportunity to have home playoff games here in Clarksville, which has been kind of a rare thing the last couple of years. And so that's an awesome opportunity to get some playoff, really big football games. A lot of good talent come to the city, and and be able to, make the most of that. So.
And let's throw this at Montgomery Central because they are 4A.
4A.
Mm-hmm. And then, so actually Northwest and Kenwood are 5A schools. They chose to go up and play in 6A so we could have our own region. It worked out that way. Mm-hmm. And then Clarksville Academy is a private school. They play in the private league division. Yeah. Did I miss any other school?
I think that's it.
I think that's it. Everybody else is
I think
6A.
One of the biggest things as well is when you're in coming from maybe if you're a single A, 2A, 3A school, is the environment. Mm-hmm. Stepping into a 6A, environment on a Friday night with the crowd. I mean, most programs like that have crazy amounts of crowds, and that's a big advantage for it. So moving up as far as 6A, you're gonna go on the road and play some really tough teams in this playoffs where there's really tough crowds and a tough environment. And I think with us merging as a 6A region, I think we always have great crowds too, and there's some tough environments. It's not easy to walk into West Creek and get a win. It's not easy to walk into a Rossview and get a win. A Clarksville High School. Those are tough environments as opposed to being a 2A or a 1A school going into that. So that's a big thing as far as speaking on differences of region numbers.
Good point.
For sure.
I guess you would say that I'm a veteran coach because you see some gray in my beard. I don't know. That's a very good question. I think that you would think that the older you are and the more experiences you've been through, you would like to understand the game, the coaching staffs, how things progress, how you work your off season, how you work during the season, how you schedule things, how you talk with kids, how you correct kids, how you bring kids in your program. You would like to think that you do a good job or you're seasoned in that area. But being coaching as long as I have, it's always a work in progress. I think everywhere I've been at a few different schools. I think every year I've been at Rossview, it seems like something's been different. We're always trying to change this or what can we do better? Is it the weight room? Is it personnel? Is it the offense or defense you're running? So I think as a coach, you're always looking to better yourself. And I think as a veteran coach, you would think those things are more in place. But really, I think you're just always a work in progress. What do you think, Coach? Last year was your first year.
Yeah, last year was my first year.
As a head coach.
We had quite the first year. I mean, just just kind of with everything that went on with Booster Club and with scheduling and with trying to make sure the kids had everything that they needed and take them through different summer activities. I think I had a lot of good mentors before I got to this spot, and I think that helped a little bit. But I think at the end of the day, nothing really prepares you for, having those one-on-one conversations with kids or parents. And I think you just have to kind of figure it out on the way. And I think that's been kind of my experience, at least is it's, you're going to screw a ton of things up and you just hope to make.
But we're human, right? So we're not perfect. So what you're saying is, so when you're assistant coach, I think Coach is saying that when you're assistant coach and practice ends, maybe you say, coaches, have a good day, and you leave. Yeah. And the head coach is maybe talking to a parent or taking an email or the next morning, so-and-so said this. So that's some of the world that we live in. You talked about the Booster Club, raising money. Those are things as an assistant coach you don't have anything to do with. Yeah. You're just in and out. And I think the head coaches have all those type of responsibilities. So you can probably elaborate on some of those duties as well.
My first year, it was really important. I know it's our, coach's favorite word is culture. Mm-hmm. You have to establish or know what kind of culture you're walking into. Me, for our program, it was establishing a new culture. Right. Our young men are, great young men, but you have to make sure that there's discipline instilled, that they know where to be at the right place, right time, right attitude. Those things are very important in your first year. And then, like you said, Coach, as having great mentors and great people around you that can, make sure they don't lead you in the wrong way. And it takes a lot of people to do it. Parents are very important in the fact of you got to make sure that it's not too much of being consumed with them, but them understanding it's very important that you're trying to get this program off the ground. And at the end of the day, you got to be about your kids, man. You got to understand your kids and be willing to go out there. The football, the 10 games and the playoffs, that's all the fun part. Yeah. It's everything else around it that makes it the most important thing. That's where your true hard work comes in.
So you're saying Friday nights is really fun, right?
Oh, I love it, man.
But there's also Sunday, and then you got to go all the way through
it never
Friday
stops.
and Saturday. So
that's right.
And I tell people, like, baseball, they play 2 or 3 games a week.
Yeah.
Baseball plays 2 or 3 games a week, but football, if you don't take care of your business on Friday night and you get beat, you have 7 days that you have to live with that before you get an opportunity to play again. So that's always a challenge for our kids to regroup, get going again, and get prepared for the next opponent.
Yeah, and I like what you said. I mean, like, I think the best thing I was blessed with is just, the staff around me. Being able to get as many coaches as I have in the building and having guys that are willing to show up and get paid, pennies just to be with these kids and to pour into these kids and love on them. I mean, that's been the biggest blessing. And I think that's one of the hardest things to do is find really good coaches that understand the sacrifices that it take to really turn a program around or really kind of continue with success, and be able to keep those guys in-house and keep those guys happy and keep those guys, kind of driving that culture in the right direction. And I think that's the most important part for me is having those great parents in the Booster Club, having those great assistant coaches, having great administrators that when you go to ask for something or bookkeeping, they're going to be willing to work with you. And Booster Clubs, you need new jerseys, no problem. Here's a check, and I think that was maybe the biggest blessing for me is just having all those things.
Absolutely.
And having really good people in place this year and just hoping, I think that's my biggest scare is just moving into next year and hoping to put a good Booster Club in like we had last year and hoping to have, my assistants stay on and kind of still drive that culture where we need it to go.
Absolutely.
Well, I think one thing you mentioned is coaching players, but one thing is we also have to understand as a head coach is sometimes you have to coach your coaches.
Yes.
And I think you coach your coaches to be that everyone's on the same page, and then obviously you're overseeing that as they oversee coaching the individual players, and as we try to build a team and a culture to try to drive the machine in the right direction we want for success and the vision they will want for our program. And every year some things change, right? You got kids that come in, comes that go, kids that go. Big kids, small kids, sizes. So we're always looking to do things. What you did last year isn't always what you might do this year as a head coach. So those are things we always look at in the off season too. I'm going to talk about a moment in coaching, one of the biggest moments I had. And I was a part of state championship programs for 3 years, but that really wasn't the moment. I was the head coach at Clarksville Academy for 6 years, and I will never forget this. It was an outside linebacker that as his freshman year, he used to get pancaked almost every day by one of the best players in single A football, our tight end, Dylan Ragsdale. And this kid was phenomenal. So the next year, he ended up starting on defense for the play, and we're playing Portland away, and it's a really tight game. It's 7-7, and we come to the sideline. I called timeout, and I was a defensive coordinator, and I just looked at his eyes the moment. And I seen his eyes shine and get big, and I saw his facial expression, and I could just see that everything just come into fruition at that moment. The moment, the play, the atmosphere, everything that he worked for, practice, getting pancake, getting beat up sometimes, learning, adjusting, techniques. I could see it in his face, and I just laughed. It was so funny, and we ended up pulling off the game. We won 10-7. We scored right before halftime, and that kept us a little point margin, and we ended up winning that game. But seeing his face, Connor Wise, and he's still here in Clarksville, and he went on to be a really good football player. That was his sophomore year. And we got beat by the state championship in the second round away, Wayne County. But seeing his face, it was like reading a book. I could just see it. That moment always stands out in my coaching career.
Mine unfortunately was a result of a last-second loss. But we were playing Kenwood. It was our last game of the season, and we were driving down the field. And like I said, we had a few seconds left. We were down 6. Unfortunate that we didn't make that catch in the end zone at the front of the pylon, which our kids showed so much resilience and determination. But I think it was after everything calmed down and, just seeing these kids express their love for the game. I've never, so many kids were just like, Coach, I love this so much. I love this game so much. Players, coaches, people on the staff saying, that was the most exciting game. But I think the one part that really got me is after that, of course, we wanted to win that game, of course. And I'm sitting on the bench, and my son walks up, and he's 10, and Jackson sits next to me, and he's like, so Dad, did you have fun? I was like, that was the greatest game I've ever been a part of in a very long time, son. And he was like, I told him about the whole game and how it transpired, and after that, he was just like, he was like, Dad, I saw the feeling, and I didn't know I was like, you saw the feeling? He's like, I saw the feeling. So that had to be one of the greatest moments that not only does it resonate with your program, but your family, the people that matter so much to you in your life, to see how much that they see you walking your dream and enjoying it. And that's probably the best moment for me.
What do you think, Coach G?
I think last year, I had two moments, I think. I think the first moment was we ended up losing to Gallatin. But that was the same Gallatin that put the running clock on us. They had scored, I believe, 21 points within 3 minutes in 2021. And so at halftime this past year, we were only down, I believe, by 3, or maybe 3 or 7. But we were playing with Gallatin. And I think that was the first time that those kids had an opportunity to say that they belonged to play in 6A.
Right.
They knew they could play at this level. They knew they could play with that talent. And they were talented just as much as Gallatin was. And so I think that was a good turnaround for the program to show them that, you belong here. You're not the doormat, that you're able to play. And then obviously, I think one of the biggest it was the biggest win we had all year, was the Hendersonville game. It was on senior night. It was an opportunity where we got to celebrate the seniors, and we ended up beating a team in Middle Tennessee that is well respected, well coached,
for years,
that a lot of people look at as an example of what you want your program to eventually be. And when we beat them, I think that was a good turning point headed into the off season. I mean, it couldn't have worked out any better, to where you've got that buy-in now of what we've worked on in the summer, what we worked in the off season, all kind of brought us to this point where we're able to compete and say we belong in 6A. If we just do what we're doing and continue to stay on the path, that we'll find more success like this. So,
talking about head coaching and moments, but as head coaches, you're always, trying to get kids to believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one thing you talked about going to West Creek was, you thought you had talent, you got some players, but it's always getting kids to believe. And I think as a coach, you always want kids to play. I always talk about kids, if you're a 0 to 10 of a level, and you're a 5, you're a level 5 kid, I want him playing at 7 or 8. As a job, as a coach, you want kids to play at a higher level than probably what they think they can. And I think as coaches, when you see those moments like that and kids develop, and it's just a great moment for coaches, our families, the school and the atmosphere, and just to see kids have moments like that is what it's all about. We work very, very hard to get to see those moments. Sometimes it may not be this season. You may not get any moments in this season. It might be the next season. You have to work and develop until something comes along. The moment where a kid makes a play or something develops where you can really have a big moment for your program and a big night for the kids.
Well, and I don't know if you guys ever had this issue, or not maybe issue, but kind of this thought, being a first-year head coach, you don't even know if what you're doing is gonna pay off. You know what I mean? Where you're starting in January, and you're like, man, I hope we're doing it the right way. I hope we're teaching them what we need to be teaching them. I hope we're kind of instilling the culture that we want. Because in the off season, everything's fun. It's weightlifting. There's not that real true competition. We tried to do a lot of 7-on-7s in the summer just to kind of get that competitive edge, but you really don't know if this is gonna work.
That's true.
And then that first game where you're like, all right, we got something. We know what we've been doing. And I think it's a nice moment for everybody, the coaches, the kids, the parents, where they're looking at oh man, this is not the same old West Creek. This is not the team that, you know, we're leaving at halftime because we got better things to do. You know, we can stay to the fourth quarter and we don't know who's going to win, you know, and I think that was a really cool moment. I think my first year as a head coach, and I don't know if you guys had a moment like that when you guys started out, or, you know, where you kind of felt like it works.
My first year, we went 1-9 my first year, and yeah, that's true. I'm very tough on myself too. Yeah. So, you know, to have, you know, seasons like that where everybody else, and I'll be very transparent, when everybody else is saying, hey, it's going to take time, it's going to take time, and I'm like, do you see these guys? Like, no, I got this. Yeah. And then you realize, you know what I'm saying, like, oh, this is going to take work. Yeah. This is going to, I got to dedicate, this isn't a thing that you just, hey, I'm going to do this and do this. You have to put so much into it. And like I said, I'm hard on myself as far as coaching. So you predicate yourself on being very driven to have that moment. And when it happens, yeah, I think ours was definitely, you know, this going into this season where we had some good wins, and we had some good off season. We had a good off season, and you just saw the level of talent. And yeah, we went 3-7 this year, but you know, the one thing I pride myself on is out of 17 of my seniors, 12 of them have college offers somewhere. Awesome. And so that tells me it's working, and now it's, all right, culture's good, the kids are buying in, they know that they can do this and get to the next level. Now it's time to try my best and compete against, you know, in this region to try to win a region title against, you know, great coaching across from me, yeah.
I think sometimes what the viewer may not understand is everybody looks at records, right? You look at who's 7-3 and who's 3-7, who's 1-9. I think sometimes the people might get confused that because a team is 1-9 that you don't work hard, or that your kids don't work hard, or that you don't prepare, or and I think every year that I have been coaching a 1-9 team, I've been on a 14-1 team, I've been on 13-2. I've been on 6-5s. I've been on it. So I think every year you're always preparing just as hard, no matter what group you have, and you're always working, preparing, and getting your staff ready to have a great season and a great week, no matter what your record is. Sure. Yeah. You know, I think those are things you're always working towards. I think sometimes people get a misconception or perception that just because you ain't real good in your record that you're not working hard and things are not going your way. But that's about life. You got to keep working and keep finding and evolving and trying to find a way to be successful. And I think probably on some of my best coaching years were probably not the great record season. It was probably the time you went 3-7 or you're 5-5, and you worked very hard to find 5 wins out of the 10 games that you played. So. I think when you talk about coaching and family and I used to tell the story. We got beat one time a long time ago, and I made a comment. I'm gonna go home and kick the neighbor's dog, you know. And the kids just love that, you know. So I'm gonna go and kick not my dog, but the neighbor's dog. I don't even have one. My dog would run off if I had a dog. So, and another thing that I say is, if people would say, "Coach, should you have a dog?" I'd be like, "No, the dog would be dead by the time I got home." Right, because time we get up in the morning, go to school, and get home sometimes 8 or 9 o'clock at night, my dog's going to be dead. Then they're going to get me for animal cruelty. So we don't want to do that. But, you know, and I told this to my coaches the other day, and I think we always talk about God and family and football. I mean, how many times do you hear that? And that's the way it should be. Our Creator, God, is phenomenal. But here's the thing, and I told my staff the other day, that sounds good. All coaches say that, or most coaches say that. But really, what I told my staff the other day is when I give them the schedule, isn't it funny how everything is working around that schedule?
Yes.
Here is January all the way up until the first game, but we're working our times and schedules around all of that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So how do you feel about how do you address your family and the time frame?
I'll tell you what, my family's very understanding, man. My wife, she's in nursing school, and she works as a CNA, and she's graduating here soon, so she'll be an RN. And my kids are, you know, one's at West Creek Middle and the other one's at Barker's Mill. The true blessing is they understand. Right. They understand that this is a dream that I've been chasing for quite a long time. And, you know, being in the military, that was great. And I love my soldiers and everything that I've done, you know, throughout my deployments and everything. But when I got the opportunity to coach football, I haven't worked since. I mean, they just totally understand, and that's the best thing. Like, it doesn't matter the scoreboards. As soon as that game is done, every time, man, my kids come sprinting to me, and my wife's standing right there. And a lot of people don't even know my wife's been to every single game since I've been a head coach, and nobody even knows who she is. And I love it that way because they, when I see her, I know at halftime I'll look up and she'll give me okay. She'll give me one of those. Yeah. And then at the end of the game, she's standing there and she's just like, hey, we're going to keep rolling. We'll see you next week.
So what you're saying with your wife is that no matter how the outcome is, at the end of the game, if it doesn't go your way, what you're saying is you can look to her and you know that someone still loves you. Somebody still loves you that night.
Look, and that's the thing that people don't know about coaching. Hey, we got feelings, people. We have feelings. Like, we get so much. We get so much of the pressure and so much. And I can take it now. I understand that. But at the end of the day, and she's my closest confidant. I can talk to her about anything in the world. And yeah, she's always there. So it's valuable.
Now for Coach Gallowitz, so so it's I think Coach coaches for the money.
Yeah.
So he told me it's all about the money. So the new Mercedes, the new cars, it's all about the money that he makes, because all the time that you put in, all that money is going to good use. So it's about the money, I guess. So what about your family and your time and things that you put forth in the program and the time spent on season, off season? People think teaching's great in the summertime, but they may not know the summertime we have about 15, 16, 17 days off. Other than that, we're rocking and rolling all summer. So
yeah, I think it's really important to have like a really supportive family. I'm one of 5 kids in my own family, and so my parents do a good job. Like, we do big family trips, and they're always like, hey, what kind of works around football, and I have to explain the summer dead period. And then I started dating a girl this past year, and I kind of had to give her a disclaimer of like, this is what football season is going to look like.
Here's
like,
your
time-wise.
Here's my calendar.
Yeah, and she's like, no problem. And I'm like, okay, and then we get into it. She's like, I didn't expect all this, and it is a lot because I live in Nashville, and so it's 50 minutes from door to door, and basically I'm leaving at 4:30. That way, I'm up at 4:30. I have to leave the house at 5 to get there at 6 a.m. for morning lifts, and then we spend the whole day in the school. And then during the season, we have practice till 5:30. We stay about 30, 45 minutes till all the kids are out, kind of talking about what we need to adjust for the next practice. I get home, probably around 7:30, and she's been wonderful. Making sure dinner's kind of taken care of, the house is taken care of, and I try to make up for that in the off season, but it's just so time consuming, and I don't think people really appreciate that sometimes, because they're just looking at like Friday night, and it's like, well, that product didn't just show up. Like, somebody had to, these coaches, these kids had to put in that time of breaking down film on Fridays and Saturdays. We've got junior pros on Saturdays. We've got JV on Monday nights. We've got middle school on Thursdays. So
okay, so you're saying you might be on the field on Monday night, and then Thursday night, and then all day Saturday you're at the field again doing junior pro for a fundraiser for your program.
Yeah.
So maybe Sunday, and do you watch film on Sundays? I mean, you ain't taking the day off, right?
No.
You are working, preparing again for the next week.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's not even accounting for, when we're painting the field. I don't know if you guys have that little robot yet, but we're out there painting the field that takes place after school.
I am the robot.
Yeah.
We are the robot.
I'm pushing.
And so it's just so, and I mean, you're running these kids to camp. We took our kids to Bethel University for 4 days, which is a lot of fun for the kids, but it's a lot of work from the coaches. That's time away from your family, to kind of make sure that they have a good experience, and it's all worth it. Like, we're not complaining, but it is time consuming that I think a lot of people sometimes don't see. It's like, well, why isn't this happening, or we want it this way? And it's like, man, like, if you could only see how much work it took to get to this particular point.
And not to mention, when we're at home with them and we're doing stuff at home, And then we try to involve football. So I know I can speak for me and my wife. I'm like on huddle, hey, what, do you see this spot? Look at this. I'm going to rewind this. Tell me what you see right here for a minute.
So your wife's a pretty good coach too.
She doesn't want to hear anything to do with it, man. She's like, I don't know what I'm looking at. Like she knows ball, but you know, you have those moments too as well. So, and I know those are the eye rollers that are, you know, that I always get. So,
but it is, I mean, I will say my girlfriend's my therapist. She's my accountant.
Knows about every one of your kids, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, she's great. I mean, and you know, it's so funny. This is kind of a funny thing she does. So she comes to all the games, and I'll get back to the locker room, you know, and she'll text me a list of questions of just like things she doesn't understand or things she wants to know, like why does 50 do that, or like whose mom is this, or you know, it's just funny things that she wants to know about football. Like there was one game, you know, neither one of us were really moving the ball. She's like, why are you guys kicking it back and forth to each other? I'm like, trust me, it's not the game plan, you know. But
we're trying to figure out.
We're trying to figure it out. But
man,
she does a really good job of just, you know, trying to be involved as much as she can, and I think you know, that's another part of that. Just having,
of course,
you know, a blessing in disguise of having that person that can be all those things, you know, in your corner. And I think that's, you know, one of those fun things as well. So
I think sometimes I think people forget it, and we talk about coaches, but you got to think about the players, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the players, you know, they're not spending as much time as we are, but still they get up early in the morning.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're either lifting, they're going to school all day long, 7 classes a day for us at our school at Rossview, great academic school. Then they have practice, and they have schoolwork, they have to eat, they have to shower. I mean, so I think as coaches, we spend a lot of time, it's a lot of stress on our families and things that we do, and it really does, we really do have a schedule, and things really evolve around that, really. And I think it's the same for the kids. They have to commit, just like coaches commit to do it the right way, and they sort of have to do their scheduling around our schedule as well. So it's a trying time. It can be the best of times, and it can be the worst of times. Yeah. It can be the best of job, and sometimes it can be the worst of job. It's just part of it.
And that's what I do. I do really appreciate families that kind of, you know, respect that time that you guys are kind of setting up with after school weightliftings or things like that. Because, you know, I have parents that have, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 kids where they're bouncing from soccer practice to football to dance to all these different things. And I mean, again, like we're not the only ones sacrificing. I know a lot of these parents and kids sacrifice a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of resources just to make sure that our program can operate at a level where we can compete, you know, in 6A like we were talking about. So I think that's really cool when you have parents and family that are bought in as well. So
I think when you mentioned that, you're talking about a program, and you always talk about, you know, you hear Nick Saban talk about the organization, right? Not a football program, because there's so much that entails kids, coaches, school, grades, ACT scores, GPAs, college coaching, scheduling, so many things that we involve, and it really is a program, and trying to do things the right way, and it involves a lot of time on our parts and our families, but also on the kids and administration, and just a total program. It takes a lot of people doing the right thing.
Yep.
So like, you know, do you recharge in the off season, how you do things, how you get your mojo, how you get your energy? So Coach, what do you do?
I'm gonna go with the young thing, and I'm addicted to this. It's a true addiction. Like my family, as long as they're okay, and we always have time for us to spend together. You know, we'll have time on Sundays. I try our best to. And then, of course, we have our dead period times. And, you know, in that summer, like you say, it's about that balancing, knowing when you want to go, like going in the mornings on weightlifting so you have more time in the afternoon to finish some stuff up. But, like, you know, it's an addiction. I love it. I love doing it every single day. I haven't been burnt out, none of that. My kids, I love my guys. I see them every day. I hold them accountable every day. And, you know, I strive to be a successful coach where you've seen your 14-1 and 13-2 seasons, and you know, y'all have had great seasons. You know, I had them in Georgia. I've had great seasons in Louisiana. You know, it's just
and those seasons can be a grind.
Yes.
You play 15 games in a year, and we did it 3 years in a row. That was 45 games in 3 years at one point when we was at Fort Campbell. So that's a grind.
Yeah, and you have to entail a lot of things that a lot of people don't think about. I got to eat right. You got to eat pretty, because it's so easy to just go down the street to the Zaxby's or go, grab somewhere, grab something there. You have to make sure that all of that, me and you, I don't know if you work out, but we work out when we get chances.
Frequently.
Off season, we're in there more. During the season, not so much. But, having your body, be able to go through, 10, 12, 14 games, 15 games in a season, that's huge, man. It really is.
You only have one body.
But I'm addicted to this, man. I love it.
That's good
I love
stuff.
it, man. I really do.
What do you got, Coach G? So you rejuvenate? Do you need to rejuvenate? Are you still got that first year coaching mentality? You're still ready to go? So what do you think?
Yeah, so I've been coaching for 10 years, and you do try to find, I think, because there are times where it's like, this is a grind. It is. And so I think the two things that I've done is I try to make the off season a little bit more eventful than usual. We'd bring in guest speakers, or sometimes like we're going to a Glazier clinic, and that's fun for the staff to go just talk football, just kind of relax, just to kind of be around other coaches. And then, I think also the second thing is like being able to facilitate. I think that's been my biggest thing is because I tried to do 11 different jobs, and instead of like utilizing my coaches at times where it's like, well, if I wanted a certain way, I need to do it. And instead of like, well, let me coach up this guy, or let me lean into, my strength and conditioning coach, who's great. Allow him to build the program, allow him to run the weight room. Well, while he's running it, and I know it's going to be done at a good standard, a high standard, right? I can get stuff done, whether that's fundraising or depositing money, or ordering jerseys, or talking to vendors, things like that. And then you kind of put guys in situations where they're the head coach of particular things, what they're good at. I got two coaches that are great at selling signs. So after school, you guys go sell signs, you run the weight room, you're in charge of this, whatever that may be that day, selling concessions after school or whatever. And I think that helps me kind of not stress as much, which I think kind of eliminates that burnout a little bit. Because like you said, like the season's fun. Like I like football. Like I like practice. I like going to, coaching the games and watching film. That's the fun stuff. But like January to that August is the part where I think I sometimes feel that grind a little bit more.
Different. It's different. Yeah, January is different. So
I think the biggest thing here is hearing from you. You've been coaching for a while now. How many years? 30 years. So, like I said, I say it's an addiction. He has a great balance on what he wants to do.
Obviously, I'm addicted.
The biggest question is, how do you find that time to refuel and just go back at it after year of all these great ups and downs in the season? What is it that fuels you being, coaching for so long?
I think it's like most of us, it's the kids, right? And I always like to, I think the thing I really strive for is to seeing the kids win a game that they're not supposed to win. Yeah. And I think you saw that when you played Hendersonville, and I think you understand the whole gamut of things that you put together, and seeing kids, seeing that is what it's all worth it. Every year is sort of different, and I think when you're coming off the season that you come off of, so I would say for you, it's probably a little easier going into the off season, right? Yeah. And if you lost the last 3 or 4 or 5 games, it's a different avenue that you take going into. So I think every year is different, and I think for me and my program, our program at Rossview, is the last 2 years when the season ended, we took off until January. Yeah. And I have never taken off that time frame before. We always get back in the weight room and do 2 or 3 weeks, just do your foundations and get your lifts, your core lifts in, and get the kids going again. But I found out last year that our kids really enjoyed that. I think they had a hunger to get back in the weight room that they haven't had in the past. So we did that again this year, and I think that rejuvenates me. I think the kids actually have time off, and then I think when you get back in January, you're ready to go. And I think what I found is it's funny when kids, the season ends, especially you'll know this with your seniors, they don't know what to do.
Oh yeah.
Right. So when they're on a schedule and you see them every day, and now you say, hey, football's over, or we're not lifting, they're down there hanging out in the gym.
Yeah.
You're like, hey man, what are you doing? I'm just shooting. So I don't know what to do with my. They'll tell you. Yeah. I don't know what to do with myself.
They'll join the craziest sports now. You got your starting left tackle over there getting prepared for tennis, and you're like, what's going on? Like, he's like, well, it's my senior year, and I want to play every sport. And I'm like, okay. Have fun with that.
Some kids are like that. They want to do other things. So, I think rejuvenation for everybody's a little different. But I think the common denominator is you love the game.
Yep.
Yes.
You want to see your coaches successful. You want to see your team successful. Your school have success. You want people in the crowd cheering for your team and having a great atmosphere at the school. And I think really that's enough to motivate me.
Yeah, cool.
And I always tell people, and I'm sure you guys probably understand this, that winning is fine. Right? Winning's fine. Winning, you move on, you correct things, you got a couple mistakes you don't harp on too much because you won. But when you lose, losing eats you up.
Yes.
And then everything is magnified, right? When a kid stepped with the wrong foot or missed a tackle or something didn't go your way, you really magnify those type things. So I think really just trying to have success is enough motivation in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so for NFL, right? So obviously I'm a Titan fan because my boys are huge Titan fans. I mean, we have a Titan family, so I'm a Titan fan. But other than that, I'm not a big NFL guy. I love NFL, but I'm a college guy. So Sundays, I'm usually football related, trying to mow the yard, do things, enjoy what time I have. And then Saturdays, we usually meet on Saturdays. So Saturdays, I'm usually pretty busy myself. So NFL, you got the Buffalo, you got Kansas City that's kicking tail this year. You got Cincinnati that's trying to creep in there and win one this year. So what do you think, Coach G? Who's your team, or how's it going for you? Are you on the fan duel? Are you gambling a little bit there? You go. His girlfriend just cringed. See, he just lost his girlfriend right there. See,
I don't know if that might get me fired. But
don't bet on your games. That was the Pete Rose thing.
Sure.
Go back in time. The old Pete Rose back in the 70s, early 80s. Pete Rose. Everybody was doing it. They hammered the great Pete Rose. So just don't bet on your games. We're not there yet. I don't guess.
No
parlay. No parlay coming your way.
No. I'm a big Titans fan too. So I usually go to pretty much all the games. It is kind of for me. I'm kind of excited. They have a top 10. Well, they got the 11th pick, so that's exciting. And just kind of seeing where they're going to move the franchise. They just hired the GM.
Right. From San Francisco.
Yep. So they're moving in the right direction, I hope. And then I think if there's teams that I like to watch, kind of in the playoffs right now, I think Dallas is fun to watch. I'm an Ohio State guy, so they got Ezekiel Elliott, and then the Bengals have a ton of Ohio State players on their team. So it's kind of fun to keep up with those two squads from the AFC and the NFC. In terms of who I think is gonna maybe win it all, I think.
So who's your pick? Who's your pick for the winner? Not who's your pick?
All right, I think it's going to be Dallas and the Bengals.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It is.
But I think the Bengals are going to win it.
Well, I'm against the grain. I'm one of those weird fans out there. I'm a Patriots fan. No reason, just, 2000s, 2001s. Met Drew Bledsoe when I was young.
Cool.
By the way, I have a signed Pete Rose. Hit King with his numbers. I have one in my house. The great Pete Rose. His numbers are crazy.
Charlie Hustle.
But I'm a Patriots fan. Didn't do well, but we'll see what happens in the offseason as well. We kept our defensive coordinator, so that's great. Even though he is a head coaching caliber guy, and Gerard Mayo, and
now your OC used to be the DC.
Yes, absolutely.
That was a little different.
Yeah,
you don't hear about that.
Coaching is very different.
Now high school, that's normal, right? They'll understand. High school,
you
can be a defense coordinator, offense. You've switched. That's normal. But now for NFL and college, you don't hear coaches doing that often. That was very unusual.
Very, very true. As far as the Super Bowl, I'll say it's difficult for me because I have the 49ers in the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City Chiefs have been in an AFC title game or better since Mahomes has gotten there. So you got to prove me different outside when it comes to that. They're just a freight train that nobody's talking about. And I have the Kansas City Chiefs, and I mean, it's going to be a really good game. I think that Brock Purdy's good at, great enough to lead a very, very stacked San Francisco 49ers team, and I have them, but I have the Kansas City Chiefs winning.
I picked the Chiefs. That would be my team if I'm going to pick one. So what about the 49ers quarterback? Isn't this guy like off the street? He's a young guy, and he's coming out there. I mean, he's an unknown. Is it Purdy? Is it
Brock Purdy, okay. If my memory serves me correct, he was out of Iowa State. He's just a smart guy, man. He makes really good reads. I mean, it pays when you have Deebo Samuels from South Carolina. I'm from South Carolina. Deebo Samuel. You got CMC. You got, that great defense. You got, Kittle. You have so many weapons. But the one thing that speaks to it is that he does not make young mistakes. Like, he follows what Kyle Shanahan does. He makes good decisions, and he's got ice in his veins. When it's all on the line, he's going to march down the field and he's going to score on you. And the 49ers are fun to watch. They really are. It's an exciting team to watch. And I tell you, in that NFC, Dallas looked good the other night, definitely. The Eagles are still there, and if you don't know who A.J. Brown is, and that dude is a problem.
A.J. Brown.
Yes.
Or something.
Yeah, that guy. But he's a problem, man.
Philly now.
Big receiver, but I think the only team that can go into Philly, and win against a team like that is the 49ers, but Kansas City's different. Patrick Mahomes isn't human. He's not human, man. I say it all the time.
That dude is
not human. He's great. He's fun to watch, man. It's like, I don't know.
Well, you can't forget about the Bills because you got Josh Allen. Josh Allen's phenomenal, 6'5", about 230. Run it, throw it, and he's just a gamer. So
physical dude.
That's one of our picks for the NFL for the NFL world out there. So I know that the middle school, the funding, I guess you would say, has been incorporated into our middle school programs. Mm-hmm. So now we have funding, we have supposedly equipment coming. Yeah. And I think people in general think that middle school football is in. So from my perspective, I think that we have to look at the truth of the matter. So for John Miller, our CMCSS, for our principals, administration, everyone involved, I think we have to start from the top. So funding is there.
Yes.
I think the next thing we have to look at, are you getting a coach in the building?
Yeah.
Can you get a coach in your middle school to see the kids, talk with the kids, try to get a staff on board? I can probably say that our middle school, I'm guessing now, but they've probably never wore their jersey to school. Mm-hmm. And you think that they play football weekly, but they've never had a coach in the building. They've never wore their jersey to school and have pride in their team. And I think those are things that we're trying to work towards for the program and establishing a better high school program. So for you, Coach G, when you want to talk about how is that going to benefit your team going in the future, trying to have your coaches, trying to have a program, as opposed to probably other counties who's had feeder programs and coaches building their program for the high school, and in many cases running the same offenses and defense, the same terminology. So when they get up to the high school level, it's a much easier, smoother transition.
Yeah, I think it's huge. I know the big thing for us is being able to have kids, like you said, that had the same terminology, to be able to learn kind of our tackling techniques and our blocking techniques. And I think the big question I have is, how is that going to look in terms of the hiring process? Because you want to get guys that are football guys that want to help the program, that want to grow a program. Yeah. You want to generally try to avoid people that just kind of want to make a few extra bucks and just kind of do it as a side hustle. And so I think that's going to be the big question I have. Facilities is the next question. Where, if they're going to play at our stadium, who's running the concession stand? Where does the gate money go? Or are they going to get their own practice field? How does that look? What are the rules with being able to help maybe coach both sides until we kind of get those coaches in place? So there's still a lot of questions, but I think Mr. Miller kind of making this happen has been phenomenal. And I think we're going to see a big return on the product that's on the field, our competition in the playoffs, our competition within the city just continue to rise because we have people that are knowledgeable, we have people that care, we have people that are in place to really give these kids a really fun opportunity at the middle school level.
I think you're talking about, the hiring process for the middle school. I think that you'll probably agree that if you're a good football coach, you're a good teacher. Mm-hmm. I think you're a teacher of the game, but, as for me, I love coaching, but I love teaching my kids, and I love to interact with my kids, and that's just, I still enjoy that so much. And I think that sometimes you get a misperception of a coach. Yeah. That, you're trying to hire someone in the middle school or the high school, but good coaches are good teachers, and they're good for the environment, they're good for the kids, and they're good for the total school program. So if you get a middle school program and the coach is ready to practice after school, does he have a place to practice?
Yeah, I think from what Mr. Miller has expressed, they have a location right there at the schools. But like Coach Gallowitz is saying, there's so many questions, right, so many variables. But we have to definitely take some, a little bit of, step in, yeah, sure, because it's going to be a crawl, walk, run phase, and you got to make sure that, number one, that the programs get off their feet and sure, do what they're supposed to do, because these kids, I would say more so that the middle schools are so vital for these kids to have football and to have somebody in there to hold them accountable of their actions in school as well as after school playing football, because that's where it begins. So when they come to us, when they become ninth graders, when they become freshmen, if you have a great relationship in the middle school with the coaching and the coaching staff and going down there talking to those guys, the transition is a lot smoother, and that's what we all want to aim for. I think it's a phenomenal idea. I think Mr. Miller is doing great with the idea of it, and yeah, it's gonna take. We're gonna get our lumps. We're gonna get hit over the head with some challenges, but I think it's a great opportunity not only for our middle schools but for our communities as well.
I think you're talking about the future of Clarksville football trying to get better. I think I've been in this system for a long time now, and I think that you have up and down years. Yeah. And I think a lot of that comes with your kids, right? Mm-hmm. You have a good group of kids that come in and they build, and you have a good season, and the next group may not be as talented. You have to work harder or adjust. Things are different. But I think overall, trying to make our programs better as the Clarksville Montgomery County school system, I think that's a huge step in the right direction for our programs and for the kids to be successful. Because remember, and I tell people all the time that people want kids to get a college education a lot of times, and I think you want to get a math scholarship, an English scholarship, but people understand the football scholarships are full rides in some cases. Absolutely. Some cases. And I think that when a kid can go to school and give a card and get his education paid for, they can go out and meet people, meet their future wife, their future business, and their whole life is taken to a new degree just because of football. And I think that if we give them a better opportunity to do that, that's going to be better for them, their families, and their future. And I think football in Clarksville should get better. And I think a lot of times that we have, like for us, it's Rossview Middle School feeds us. And a lot of teams that we play, especially in 6A, they may have 2 or 3 middle school programs feeding the one high school. And as opposed to us, we've had Junior Pro, which has done a phenomenal job. The last 25 years, they have done a great job running that and having football here in our county, as opposed to if they didn't take that over, we wouldn't have any football. So they've done a great job. So kudos to those guys that's been running that program for years. And I think now we're going to step in the new direction. Step one, right? Step one of many steps, and we look forward to really taking off and being great for the high school programs in the future. We appreciate you guys being here today, and thanks CCN for this network and all that you're doing for our schools and our programs and our community, and hope we've enlightened you just a little bit on some things about our schools and ourselves and your community.
For current and exclusive content, subscribe to CDE Lightband, connecting you at the speed of light.